Guys, welcome to episode number 403 of the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. I really appreciate you guys' support. We're going to have a great episode here with Krogh of Mogollon Rim Outfitters. We're going to be talking about the Nevada guided mule deer draw. I want to remind you guys that the Go Hunt Insider has all of the draw odds for all the western states, but particularly in this episode that we're talking about now, they have the guided mule deer draw odds compared to the regular, if you're just putting in for the regular draw. And you can see, if you go on there, the difference in going in the guided pool as opposed to going in the DIY pool. If you're not already a Go Hunt Insider member, go to gohunt.com/insider, click on the blue Join Now button, use the J. Scott promo code. You're going to get a $50 Go Hunt Gear Shop gift card. You can immediately purchase product with that $50 and make sure that you guys don't miss out on the best Western hunting resource out there. Go Hunt Insider is an amazing tool. They've got all kinds of harvest statistics, draw odds within the Insider module, as well as they're always giving away hunts and great gear every month to Insider members. All you have to do is be an Insider member to win. Make sure to use the J. Scott promo code and you're going to get that $50 Gear Shop gift card. Guys, I also want to thank KUIU.com, Jason Hairston and his crew, for making the best ultralight hunting gear available on the market today. Make sure you go to KUIU.com to keep up with all the latest products and the greatest products out there. You can follow along on their Instagram page at KUIU Official, and I just really appreciate KUIU's support. I want to thank phonescope.com. You can use the JScott16 promo code, and Phonescope, they adapt any phone to any optic, and you can be taking photos and videos immediately. If you use the JScott16 promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount. Also, the outdoorsmans.com, you can call them at 1-800-291-8065. Use the J. Scott promo code. You're going to get a 10% discount there at the Outdoorsmans. I want to thank those sponsors. I want to thank you guys for listening. This is episode number 403. I can't even believe it. 403 episodes. I appreciate all the support, the loyal support from you guys, the listeners. It's amazing. If you want to send me an email, you can do so at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. You can also follow along on my Instagram at jscottoutdoors. If you're interested in a Gould's turkey hunt, I do have I have a few openings for 2018. We are booking for 2019 as well. We just attended the National Wild Turkey Federation convention back in Nashville and had a great time back there. Guys, if I can help you in any way, send me a message, jscottoutdoors@gmail.com. I appreciate all your support. Also, if you're an avid listener of the podcast, would you please go on iTunes and leave me a rating between 1 and 5 and leave me some comments there. That helps our placement on iTunes, and I know you guys, I know there's a bunch of you out there listening that have not done so. Would you please do that as a favor to me? That helps us. I've only got probably 475 ratings, and I've probably got 10 or 15,000 daily listeners. So I really appreciate your support. You guys make this possible. Let's get right to this episode with Krogh of Mogollon Rim Outfitters.
Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have a friend of the podcast, a friend of mine, Krogh of Mogollon Rim Outfitters. Greg's been on the podcast several times talking about Nevada, talking about Arizona. This podcast today, I want to talk specifically with Greg about the Nevada guide-only draw for the mule deer hunts coming up. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Jay. How you doing?
Good. We've got a deadline. You can fill us in on all the details, but I want to say it's like March 9th or something like that for this guide-only draw for mule deer. So why don't I let you take it away and tell us when the deadline and kind of how it works and how your program works.
All right. Yeah, It's called the non-restricted, non-resident guided deer draw, and what it is it allows people to apply that are only planning on using an outfitter, which is a smaller group, and they set aside a certain number of tags for us outfitters that only we are applying against. So we're only competing against the other outfitters and their clients on this. You have to choose either this draw or the general draw, which takes place in April. Typically, this one has draw odds between 2 and 4 times better, the draw odds, than the regular draw. Still not great draw odds, but considerably better than the regular draw. And the deadline, I believe, is March 9th. It is March 9th. And it's they've kind of changed the process. They have a new company that's taken over and doing the draw. So I think it's gotten a lot easier this year. They had a few little glitches in the beginning, but it's gotten taken care of now, and it's a much easier process.
So how does it work? We'll get into the units and all that stuff, but specifically from the mechanics of if someone wanted to apply, what do they need to do with you?
All they need to do is just contact me, either anything through either social media or my website or email or phone, and then I will send them a link with instructions. And basically all it is they have to, the very first year, because this is new, once they do it this year, they don't have to do that in the future, but they have to create an account with NDOW, which basically just means give them an email address and a password. And so when you log in, I'll send them a link. They log in, click on the sign up button, and then it'll ask for their social security number and date of birth. It'll find their information from years past, or you'll create new information in the case of someone who's a first-time applicant. And then it'll ask you to set up an account with an email and a password. Once you have that, then you just click on the apply for the draw and go from there. And then I will send over my password and my guide's license number.
Okay, perfect.
With the list of the units.
Yeah, with the list of the units. Okay, so it sounds, in years past when I've applied with you, you've had to do a power of attorney, had to fill out multiple pieces of paper. So from what I understand, Greg, it's all done through the computer now, so it's gotten very automated and electronic, so there's no paper involved?
Yeah, they've completely taken out, there are no more paper applications for it. Mm-hmm. So, and then as far as the power of attorney, that's no longer required because they're applying themselves. I don't need a power of attorney anymore, so all I do is just give them my password and my guide's license number, which they log into, and then I'm sent something to review it all.
Right. So then they have to choose now whether they apply in this draw or the general draw. They cannot do both. So I would assume if they apply in this guided draw with you, and they go and attempt to draw either by just by mistake and try and draw, will the computer kick them out? Do you know, or can it put them in jeopardy of getting in trouble, or how does that work?
I think it would kick them out because on the new process, when you pull up it tells you which draws it tells you which draws are available for you. For example, if I noticed somebody that did a hunt last year forgot to fill out a hunt survey card. So when they went to apply for the draw, the computer looked at their information and it showed what draws they were eligible for, and the deer draw was not in there because they did not turn in their hunter survey card.
Okay, that makes sense. And do they also have to purchase a Nevada hunting license? And then once they purchase that license, then they're free to go through with this application. And then I would assume if they're going to do, elk and sheep and what have you, other animals, they can still do that portion in the general draw, but they'll have already purchased their license, correct?
That is correct. So you purchase your license on this one. You do not have to purchase it in order to apply, but if you don't acquire preference points or bonus points or preference points. So okay. You purchase a license, which I believe is $142, and that gets you your bonus point, and it's good for all the other species in the April draw. You can still apply in the April draw, just no longer for deer. And another thing that's important to note on this is the guide draw is only for rifle. It is not for archery and muzzleloader hunts. It's
okay, is that a change from last year? Was it also rifle only?
No, it's been that way forever.
Okay. Okay, that's kind of the mechanics of it. I'm going to ask you some questions about last year's season. Before I do that, looking ahead and looking forward, trying to forecast, drought, precipitation, what have you. How does Nevada look? What are you anticipating? Is it going to be an average year, better than average, below average? What are you seeing out there?
Nevada's really, I really pay a lot of attention to moisture totals in Nevada. I have, I check it daily, and I have several different accounts on my computer where I just click on it. It shows me what they get down to the hundredth of an inch. So something I've really followed for the last 10 years. And what's kind of funny about Nevada is nothing seems to matter except for April and May rains. And it's we've had years, in the last 7 or 8 years in Nevada, we've probably been in one of the worst droughts where we've been at less than 50% of precipitation on most of those years for the winter. Even the spring has been down, but we've had over 100% in April and then again in May. And if you look at Nevada in the last 6 years, just about every record has been broken over there. So the antler growth has been phenomenal. The only year it wasn't was, I believe it would have been probably 3 or 4 years ago, they had a really bad year. And on that particular year, also had a weak winter, just like we've been having. But then they didn't get any rain at all, and very little in April, and only, not even nothing measurable whatsoever in May. So the key is April and May. And obviously, if you get a really wet winter, you're going to at least have an average year. Even if if you have a super wet winter and you don't get the April, May, you're still going to be okay. But to have complete optimum growth, in my opinion, it's a mild winter with warm conditions, just like what we have, and then wet spring. So we really won't know on that until April and May. The good thing about Nevada, though, is if we do get in a really drought situation, and we've had guys do this in the past, we'll allow them to turn their tag back in, which is, with Nevada, you can turn your tag back in and get all your bonus points.
Okay, very interesting. How was the season? Let's talk a little bit about the season last year and some of the bucks that you guys harvested on these hunts. Compared to other years, how was it last year?
I thought last year was a really, really good year. It wasn't quite as good as the year before. I thought antler growth was great. Certain bucks it was kind of funny last year. Certain bucks were down. Everybody thought last year, because that was the first year we'd had a pretty good winter last year, everybody thought it was going to be off the charts, and it really was. It was good. It just wasn't as good as the year before. And I think the winter maybe lasted a little longer, a little bit colder conditions. So the deer maybe came out of it in not quite as good a shape as they did in the years prior. Still better. It was just the year before was such a banner antler growth year that several bucks actually went down, even though they were still great. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah,
in other
absolutely.
Words, if we hadn't had the year before, everybody would be talking about how great antler growth was last year. But the year before was so phenomenal that it was just perfect conditions that some bucks that were 7 and 8 years old actually went down 5 to 10 inches. Instead of you'd think they'd have gone up. But as far as overall, I thought it was one of the top 3 or 4 years we've had in the last 15 was last year. And archery killed a couple of really nice bucks. On the rifle hunts last year was about as good as I can remember it in the premium units. So I would say it was very good last year.
Greg, if I remember right from our podcast last year, it seemed like a couple of the units, the dates might have slid back, and you were kind of excited about a couple of those hunts. Is my recollection correct, and did those dates pay out to be as good as you thought, or was it kind of a bummer and it didn't produce like maybe you were thinking?
No, the dates went back, and they did. It was, I thought, I'm not crazy about it only because it wasn't just us that benefited. Everybody benefited from it, and there were some really big bucks that got taken in the last couple days of the season last year when that rut kicked in. And I think overall I kind of prefer they didn't do it like that. Looking back, a lot of those deer got down that low country on winter range and started rutting early, and some really good deer got killed that probably otherwise wouldn't have.
So in other words, you have so much, you have a broad net there and have a bunch of, prior knowledge from years past that if the dates would have stayed the same, maybe those bucks wouldn't have been as vulnerable. Those dates were better for everybody. and not taking anything away from anybody else that harvested or guided there or what have you, but you're saying that quite possibly some of those bucks might not have got shot if those dates weren't making those deer as vulnerable.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. There were 4 bucks last year that we've hunted for years and haven't been able to kill on the archery hunts, that we have a lot of history with, and we've never seen them after the archery season on these. On 3 of the 4, we had never seen them after they went hard-horned. And this year, all 4 of those bucks got killed in the last couple days of the season down in the low country, rutting does. And
Gotcha.
in the years past, nobody was seeing them. Not just us. Nobody was really seeing them. And then they just kind of showed up, and all of them got killed down low. 2 of them were killed by a buddy of mine. One of my buddies shot one of them, and another not through us, just on their own. So and there were several big bucks that got killed very late. That I think on other years probably, in the 3 or 4 years prior to that, when they were mature and roughly the same size, they never had gotten taken. So I don't think it's the best thing for the herd, the health of the herd, but it was definitely a lot of fun hunting the last 3 days. We were definitely seeing rutting that late,
Yeah, for sure. Let's go through unit by unit, or I'll kind of let you run the show on it as far as go unit by unit or go hunt dates, however you want to break it down, and just talk a little bit about each hunt or each unit and what you like, what you don't like, or pros and cons of both.
Okay. Historically we've been putting in 241 to 245 as our number 1 choice. There's 3 tags in it, and the dates are, about October 5th through the 31st are the dates. It's not really a rut hunt. Fairly low density of deer, and but a much older age class of deer. Could be a more difficult hunt just to shoot a deer in, but it's got some of the best bucks in the state in it. That's always been our number 1 choice. This year we mixed it up a little bit. We have that as our first on some applicants and second choice on the other. And we did 221 to 223, which goes all the way to November 8th. And last year I think it went to the 9th even. So it goes all the way to November 8th, which is a true rut hunt for Nevada. And we put that because of the dates as our first choice this year on a lot of our applicants. That's a great hunt. Tons of deer. You're very glassable, not very physical. And the deer are rutting pretty good. Our third choice unit is area 131 to 134, and that's another late hunt. Starts around, I believe, the 20th of October and goes through November 5th. But we hunt that last 6 days of that hunt. Last year there was a lot of rut on that hunt. I think we shot a 208 buck on that hunt. It was a really, really good rut last year. You see a ton of deer on that hunt as well. You're seeing, on average, probably 100 deer a day, quite a few deer. And then also still seeing some quality deer. Definitely a migration hunt. Then we have our 4th and our 5th are more units that are for guys that don't want to play the point game forever, and want to try to draw. And that's the... our 4th choice is 231, which is still another premium unit, but not quite as hard to draw as those other 3 because it's got, I think, 8 tags. So that makes it a little bit easier to draw. And that's...
What are the dates on it?
Those are October 5th through the 31st, and that was the one we had just been talking about that used to end on around the 28th, and they added 3 days to the end. And they are going to do that again this year. That's also a good one. We had a great hunt on there last year on the rifle hunt, and it's not as good because of the dates as those other 3, but it's still that was probably our best hunt last year. We did really good on it on the rifle hunt, and that one, and then it's probably that's probably more like a 10 to 15% draw with the guys that have some point, decent amount of points, and then for our 5th choice, we've been doing one of 2 things. We're having some guys get rid of and I can explain that if they want to get into more detail when they contact me, but the top 3 choices are all very difficult. So if somebody wants a more aggressive approach, we get rid of one of those 3. And we'll add a different choice in there, which is 221 to 223, the middle season, which goes from like the 17th till the 31st. And it's considerably easier to draw than those other three and still has a chance at a really good buck. And then our fifth choice is for the kind of guys with lower point totals that want to go on a western hunt where they have a, typically, in the last 10 years, we probably average, I would say in the last 10 years, we're probably averaging 75% harvest on deer between 170 and 190.
Okay.
And that one is a hunt that takes place October 5th through the 16th.
Okay.
And that's one that we recommend for guys that, that are getting into the game now. And, we put in the first 3 or 4 choices, you want to try to get lucky and draw them. But if not, you put in for those, and it's another hunt. It's a migration hunt. You see a ton of deer, lots of action, and you just, hope you get lucky and have a really big one walk by.
So the way it works is you actually get 5 choices, and you could draw any one of the 5 choices, but you want to put your top couple of the really good hunts at the top, right? And then as you go down,
Yep.
you put the lesser. Okay.
Exactly. And we only offer 6 different ones, a total of 6 hunts, but they only give us 5. So depending on how aggressive you want, the other hunt I was talking about, the 221 to 223, October 17th through the 31st, and then the October 5th through the 16th, those are the 2 easier ones to draw. They're still not easy, but they're considerably easier than the other 4. So if you want to be more aggressive, we'll get rid of one of the top 3 and replace it with one of those. That way you get 2 chances at units that are more realistic to draw.
For sure.
Does that
sounds
make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Speaking about bucks, first of all, how many years have you been guiding in Nevada, give or take?
I think I started there right around, I think it was either 95 or 96. 95 or
so
96.
over 20 years.
Over 20 years over there. You know what? I think it was 95. I think it was 95. So this would be 22 years, 23 years, I guess.
Wow. And what have you seen? I mean, over the years, has Nevada mule deer hunting, as it remains fairly constant, has it gotten better, or has the quality declined?
I think the quality has gotten better. The competition has gotten better too. So, but the quality of deer, I think, is gotten better over there. But there's a little bit more competition now than there used to be, and it's obviously much harder to draw. Back then, 22 years ago, we'd apply 20 people and draw 19. And it's no longer like that. These draws have gotten really difficult. Even those late hunts, we were drawing all of them. We used to be able to put in for that 22 late hunt, and the hunt would go till November 8th, and if we applied, 4 or 5 people, we'd draw everybody. So it's changed a bunch. There's been more outfitters entering the pool, and so I think the quality of the deer has gone up, but there's also a lot stiffer competition, hunting the deer. So yeah, I think it's probably. Go ahead.
I want to take just a quick break here from talking about the deer. While I've got you on the phone, I know you're a big fan of long-range glassing and using, big binoculars, and I believe you've virtually tried every binocular out there. I know you've used, Doctors and Koas and, Swarovski, BTX, and I'm just curious, I've kind of bounced around between, I had the Doctor 40 wide angle, I had the Koas, I got the twin spotter, Swarovski spotter, with the bracket that Benny makes up there, Benny Wells Manufacturing in Prescott makes, and then I got the BTX, and I'm curious the journey that you've been on and kind of where you're at now, and is it something that you think is fairly set in stone, or is it constantly changing? And where you're at with, what are you using now, and what do you think is the best for your eyes, and why?
For the small glass, I'm using all Swarovski. For anything, the 10s and the 15s is all Swarovski. I use the 1556s. And then on the bigger glass...
They're incredible, aren't they? Those 15s are incredible.
I just don't know that there's ever going to be a pair of binoculars as crucial as those. Swarovski 15s are incredible. And then on the bigger glass, I used the BTX 95 almost exclusively last year. For at least 90% of the hunts I did last year, I used that BTX 95, and I was extremely happy with it. I loved everything about it. Obviously the weight, I really like the angled eyepiece. I have some nerve damage in my neck from years of glassing, where I get kind of a pinched nerve in my lower neck, and this is the first year I can remember where it never hurt the entire season, from doing it that way with my chin down instead of, lifting it up. And especially for glassing uphill. A lot of Nevada is glassing uphill from down low to up. So I definitely like those. And if I had to pick one binocular that is the best, on the long range, I'd probably say it's that BTX 95. Especially for anything from 2.5 to 3 miles on in, I thought the BTXs were unbeatable. For anything that gets out past 2.5 to 4 miles, or 3 to 4 or 5 miles, then I do like the Dr. 40 still, just because they're a little bit extra magnification.
Greg, the Dr. 40s,
the ED wide angles.
Okay, so those are the newer ones, right? Because I had some that were probably 10 or 12 years ago, or maybe probably 10 years ago. And in the center of the Doctors, it was amazing quality, real crisp. And then kind of as you worked around the edges, they weren't near as clear as, say, the Kowas, edge-to-edge clarity. They were, that concave lens. And I'm wondering, how are those newer Kowas, newer Doctors compared to, the old style that we used, 10, 12 years ago? Have they gotten quite a bit better?
They're night and day better. The old, one of my guides bought my old pair, the ones you're talking about, and, I loved them when I used them, but then I went back to them just to use them one day. I don't even remember why I was using them. I couldn't even believe the difference between the two. But again, they're not, as far as clarity, I want to be clear that the BTX 95 it's pretty impressive. The clarity on it is phenomenal. The comfort, everything on it I really like. I only am keeping the Dr. 40s because of the really long range stuff. And there's a few places, like Mexico, for example. I was just down in Mexico hunting, and there's one glassing knob on our whole ranch, and you start seeing deer for the most part at about 3.5 miles. Most of the stuff we're glassing, it's so far away, and that extra magnification made a huge difference. And so for that type of stuff, I'll always keep those around, and always use them. I'll never sell them. But I think 90% of the time, the BTX 95 is going to be in my pack.
Okay, and it's interesting, the angled portion of the BTX is actually one of the things that I've just, over time of using it, I wish they made it in a straight, but you're saying you've got nerve issues in your neck, and actually tilting your head down actually is better for you. What do you do when you take the BTX and go up on a knob and glassing down? How do you handle glassing down with an angled eyepiece?
Well, I'll tell you, the one thing I've noticed is, and I thought that was going to be a huge issue, just like with the Kowas, for example. I thought it would be an issue back then. And, if you really stop and think about it, most of our long-range stuff is, if you get up on a knob, you're really not looking right down below you with your with your 40s or with your 35s or whatever. Your real big glass is right below you. You're more looking out there a little ways. By the time it gets out there I use my 15s for anything inside of a mile. I never glass with anything that's within a mile. So no matter how big a knob I'm on, if I'm looking a mile out, I'm not really looking straight down, And
okay, that makes sense.
So I haven't really noticed, like when I got a pair the first time, for example, exactly what you're talking about. My buddy had one, and I told him I made fun of it, and I was giving him a hard time about, at the time it was the Kowas. And so I set him up and said, yeah, this is really comfortable. And I was kind of, mocking him, and he was standing next to me, and I was kind of pointing straight down. He said, well, why in the world would you be using your Kowas right there? That's 800 yards away. When he said it, I thought, well, yeah, you're right. Well, I really wouldn't be. And he said, where's the first place you'd be using them at? I said, right out about there in those hills. And so he set it up, and I looked at it. It was completely comfortable, at that angle. So for me, it's, several people that I know don't like the angle, and so it's just, I think it's a personal preference. And to be honest with you, what I like about them is just because of my personal neck issues. Nevada's a lot of glassing uphill, and the Dr. 40s are a long binocular. So you really kind of, when you set them up on a tripod, you're always trying to get them as low as you can so they're more stable. And then I kind of tended to sit down, and then I'd get my chin and then kind of tilt my chin up and look up. And it would create this, if you picture lifting your chin up, it creates this
crick in your neck. Yeah.
And I did that for I started using those. Oh, I bet I had them 25. The first pair I think it was the first pair that ever came into the country we ordered. Me and Randy Ulmer both ordered a pair years and years ago. And so, it had to have been 20 years ago. And so using those things for years like that, it really just developed the problem to where, I was having to take, anti-inflammatories at night, just some nights just to get to sleep, it would get so flared up. And when I switched to the angled, it was instantaneous. It went away. I no longer have issues using that angle. And like when I went to Mexico this year, I was only down there for a week or 8 days. And by the end of the 8 days, when I was using a lot of my doctors, I noticed a huge difference in how my neck was already hurting me again. So for me personally, that's why I do like that angled eyepiece. And, that Swarovski's glass, I just think is better than anybody's out there, period. And I think they knocked it out of the park with that 95. If there was one thing I wish it was a 40 power. But that would be the only thing I would change on it, really.
Yeah, I could see having a 40 power and having potentially a variable where, it wasn't a fixed 35 where, you could go from, say, 20 to 40 would be awesome. And it wouldn't surprise me if someday they made a variable. But phenomenal. Yeah, Swarovski, everything I have is Swarovski, and I think that they're the best, and that's why I use them. Well, good. It was good to get your take on that. Back to the deer. So you've gone through the units. You've gone through the mechanics of how it will work. People just need to contact you. Let's talk a little bit about deer. And on these hunts, on every one of these hunts you mentioned, a 200-inch deer is possible, right? It's possible.
Yeah, even the fifth choice unit, has probably as many 200-inch deer come out of that unit as any unit in the state. It's just you're not hunting the right dates to be the optimum, but it's the same unit that's our number one choice. When your hunt ends on the 15th, the hunt that starts 2 weeks later is probably 1 in 1,000 draw odds, or 1 in 500. It's right. So it's an extremely good unit. The genetics are awesome, great bucks. You're just not getting to hunt them at the premium time. But that I'm glad you mentioned that, because one of the things I've been talking to a lot of guys about on the draw and a lot of clients, we have a lot of people that have a lot of points, and I'm trying to explain to them especially as guys are getting older. There's a lot of people by the time they're able to go on a guided hunt, and are financially set to where they can do these kind of hunts, they're starting to get older, and then they've put in for 20 years. And a lot of guys were calling me saying, I'm 70 years old. I've got 20 points. What do I do at this point? And I try to explain to guys that, if you're only going to put in for the top 2 or 3 units, Nevada's not set up like Arizona where eventually you get to that point where you have to get a tag. And there it's set up to where it just gives you more chances. So if you have 20 points, they square it. You have 400 applications, essentially, but 4 other people with 10 also have a total of 400, if that makes sense. So it's still very difficult to draw these tags. And if it's somebody new starting out, I would tell them, obviously put in for those top premium ones and try to draw them, but there's no chance of killing a big buck if you're not in the woods hunting. And if it's a financial thing where you can only go on one trip, then I absolutely agree. Put in and wait, and 25 years from now, go on that one dream hunt. But if it's something that you can afford to do, then I think you're better off, having a more aggressive approach and hunting areas that do have big bucks in them. And, you may or may not find one on your hunt, but you're at least going to be hunting in an area where there are big bucks taken every single year.
For sure, absolutely. What were some of the deer, if you just had to highlight a couple of deer, or what were some of the better deer out of all those hunts last year in Nevada that you guys harvested?
It's probably my favorite, the funnest hunt and the best hunt and the best deer on the rifle hunt last year that I liked the most was for a guy by the name of Louis Polish, and he's a really good client of mine, and he drew the third choice hunt last year, and he and I shot a buck that was around 208. That was just it was a great hunt because a lot of it was because of the guy. He's a great guy. Now, if you remember, we talked last year. His son killed a big deer with us the year before. Both of his sons killed big deer the year before, and Louis had been wanting to kill a really big deer his whole life, and he killed a really big one on that hunt. And man, we saw some great bucks on that hunt, and Louis was holding out, and it's one of those hunts where it all paid off, and he made a great shot, and it's not just the score. It's one of my favorite looking bucks. In fact, he's making me a replica of it. I can't wait to get it so I can hang it in my house.
I'm actually looking at your Instagram. It's Greg_Krogh, and that's Krogh.
Yeah.
And it looks like on the right main beam, he's kind of got like a crab clawed, like I guess it'd be like a G. I don't know. What is a G4 there? That's an extra, yeah, inline.
He's got a really giant G4. If I remember, they were like 14 inches or something like that.
But bladed too, amazingly bladed. The G4s are amazingly bladed on this buck too.
Yeah, it was a really neat deer. And that was a rut hunt. That was one of the few deer. On those rut hunts, you're not hunting pre-scouted deer. You're just basically hunting does, and we saw that buck from probably 2 miles away, and he was in some thick trees, and we knew he was good. We didn't know he was that good. We knew he was good enough that we were going to shoot him just from the 1 minute look we got at him, and it was getting late, and so we took off and got over there, and then when we got over there, the does were still there, but we couldn't find him, and we laid there for an hour and a half, and could see the 5 does, and it seemed like it was fairly open, And, I went up and down that ridge from 20 different angles while he laid there on the gun and never could turn that buck. And I just thought for sure he had moved and gotten out of there. And then all of a sudden he stood up, and I have no idea how he stood up on that hillside without us knowing he was there. And he must have just been behind a stump or something. And he got up and walked out into one little tiny opening, and he shot him. And, man, when we walked, I knew when he got up and took a couple steps, I started seeing all the extras. I knew he had the 4 giant forks, and he just made a great shot on him. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a heck of a deer. I highly encourage the listeners to go check out Greg's Instagram page and check these bucks out. Awesome stuff, Greg. I know your time's limited. While I have you on the phone, though, the general season draw obviously is, I believe, due in April for Nevada. If you could just talk a little bit about, you guys also shoot phenomenal bulls over there. If you could talk a little bit about the elk hunting and the opportunities, for elk in Nevada, and potentially highlight a couple of the units that you like over there.
Yeah, that draw usually comes available in late March, and it's usually due between the 15th and the 20th of April. The proclamations haven't come out yet, so I'm not sure of the exact dates, but and if anybody's interested in that, they can just contact us and tell us to put them on a reminder list, and we'll send them the information when it comes out. But as far as the elk goes, we typically do units 221 to 223, 111 to 115, and 231. And we do this for both archery and the rifle. They call it on their rifle hunts, they're in November. They don't have a true rut tag in any of those units other than the archery. So the rifle hunts, they call it an early hunt and a late hunt, but they're both in November. One starts typically November 6th through the 20th, or 6th through the 19th, and the next one is like from the 20th until like December 3rd or 4th, somewhere right in there. And so what we typically do is do the early hunts as our first choice in all 3 units, right down the line, 221, then 111, and then 231. And then we come back and do the 221 to 223 late hunt as a 4th choice, and then the 111 to 115 late hunt as a 5th choice. And then we also do the archery hunts in there. They have some phenomenal archery elk hunting if you can draw the tag.
Now, Nevada is a bonus point or preference point state, but is it possible to draw an elk tag with 0 bonus points, or is it just completely highly unlikely?
I mean, it's unlikely, but it's not like that. Basically, all that means is if you have one application in there, you have a chance. So
right.
They don't give the tags away. Like, for example, like Colorado, you can't draw. You can't draw the premium elk unit with 1 point. You have to have the number of points it requires. There, it's not the case. It's a weighted application system. So if you have 20 points, you have, and they square it, so you'd have 400 applications for that one tag. Whereas if you had 1 point, you'd have 1, and then the next year you'd have 4, and then 12. It just keeps squaring them. So yes, it is truly a system where, and that's I think what they really pride themselves on is you can draw it with next to nothing. A couple of years ago, we had one of our clients with 1 point draw the hardest deer tag in Nevada.
Wow. When it comes to...
Go ahead.
Which what?
No, go ahead.
When it comes to Nevada, I mean, truly you have remarkable elk and mule deer year in and year out, right?
Yeah, they have the trophy quality over there is very good in both species. Yes.
Would you say? I mean, the elk hunts. It sounds like your elk hunts start right after the deer hunt. So in other words, you guys, all your guides transition from mule deer hunting to immediately elk hunting, right?
Yep. A lot of those times we're in the unit deer hunting, leading right up to the day of the elk hunt.
Gotcha. And from a pressure standpoint on those elk hunts, is it lots of people and people all over the place, or are they actually pretty high quality hunts and as far as experience because of limited tags?
No, I'd say the experience. It's nothing like Arizona. I know to give it something that you're familiar with in Arizona and the number of people on late hunts. It's nothing like that. These units are, for example, 111 to 115. And it's 5 units. And there's, on some of these hunts, there's, man, now I'm getting stumped. I don't even know how many tags. Say there's 100. I'm trying to think. I don't have that information right in front of me. I haven't put out the regs, but even if it's 200 tags, which I don't think it's that many on the late hunt.
It's spread out over 4 units.
Very spread out, yeah.
Gotcha.
And I don't believe it's that many because I think there's only like 6 or 8 non-resident tags, so it's probably more like somewhere around 100 tags on each hunt.
And do they break?
You're talking about
the
a
elk?
huge area.
Oh yeah. Do the elk break up as much as they do in Arizona, or do you not have broken antlers near as bad?
I don't think it's nearly as bad over there as they break up. Obviously, some do, but not nearly as bad as over here. There's so many cows over there in some of those places that the competition I don't think is nearly as bad. There's just so many cows, especially like 221 to 223. I don't see nearly as many broken antlers over there as I do in Arizona. Like for example in 10, where there's a lot of competition for those cows, those bulls will get really busted up. 23 is the same way. Those bulls can get really busted up here in Arizona on 23 because the bull to cow ratio is so low. So I think that over there, because of the sheer number of cows, I don't think it's nearly as bad.
For sure. Well, I really appreciate you spending time with us and going over all of this. I know your time is precious. I want to encourage the listeners to check out Greg's website. It's Mogollon Rim Outfitters. That's MOGOLLONRIM Outfitters.com, Mogollon Rim Outfitters. Also check out Greg on Instagram. That's Greg_Krogh. That's Krogh. Is that German?
Norwegian.
Gotcha. How is, off the subject, how is your roping? Have you been able to do much this winter, and how is your health? I know you had an accident and had shoulder issues and had all kinds of, what's your roping schedules looking like?
Oh, it's been fun. I've been got a new head horse I got from a good friend of mine, so I've been going to a bunch of opens the last couple of weeks. My shoulder feels great. Yeah, last year I had that car wreck, and it just seems like 3 out of the last 4 years I've just been getting banged up. I had surgeries and stuff, but I'm finally 100% healthy, so it feels great.
That's awesome. So will you rope pretty much from now until, through summer, or what's your schedule usually?
Yeah, we've been roping here at the house just about every day. So, we rope just about every day here at the house, and then we drive down to Wickenburg. Last couple weeks we go down to Wickenburg and go into Jackpots. So it's been fun.
That's awesome. Looks like you got.
Go ahead.
It looks like you guys killed a pretty darn good deer in Mexico as well.
Mexico was a lot of fun this year. I got to go down there. I don't guide in Mexico. I go down there with one of my best friends, and we've been going down there the last couple of years. And I also got to take my daughter down there this year, and
awesome.
It was pretty neat. We got a tag for her, and she got to shoot her first deer down there. We went down there and shot a cull buck for her. It was like, one of those bucks. It's a wide 4x3, but kind of had acorns on his points, and so she shot that, and it was one of the funnest times ever down there. I hadn't been on the ranch in a couple of years, and I'd forgotten how much I'd missed it. It was a lot of fun.
Good for you, and I know you love hunting with your daughters, and that's got to be rewarding that they like to do that.
Oh, one of them's not really into it, but she likes doing all the other stuff with me, and then the other one's into roping. So it's kind of been a nice. It's kind of nice having them into different things, And one of them really enjoys the hunting, and so yeah, we've been having a lot of fun. She had an elk tag last year, and she got to get her first deer. And I got in trouble. I forgot to put her in for javelina, so she had to go along and watch everybody else shoot pigs, and except for her this weekend. So I've got to definitely remember not to do that next year.
For sure. Well, man, thanks for spending time with us. Encourage guys to check you out, and I'm going to put your contact info in the show notes of this podcast, and I always appreciate your time and love watching the success and following on your Instagram page, and you've been a friend for a long time, and appreciate your friendship, and really appreciate your professionalism in the guiding world, and you've got a great reputation, and I'm happy to call you a friend. So just thanks for everything, and good luck down the road here.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.